Today I'm going to be answering two very important questions. Now these questions seem to pop up a lot, whether it's via email, people reaching out to me, or whether it's in the comments down below on my videos. There's two questions that seem to be burning in the last fortnight. And one, which is very on topic, is Mega Evolution. And the big one is, how will the gold cards, the new ultra rares, how will they perform from Mega Evolution? Of course, the Mega Gardevoir and the Mega Lucario. Will they be expensive chase cards? Will they hold their value? What will they be like in the future? So that's the first thing a lot of people have been asking me. And the second one is, a lot of people still seem to be very hung up on Paldea Evolved. So the big question everyone else is asking is, how will the Paldea Evolved perform long term? You know, should I buy a case now? Is it too late? Will it continue to rise, etc., etc.? So they're the two questions. Ultra Rares, the new gold Ultra Rares from Mega Evolution, how will they perform? And the second one, how will Paldea Evolved perform long term? So I'm going to answer those two questions today. Let's start off with the new Ultra Rares from Mega Evolution. Now, gold cards are nothing new. They've been around for quite some time. If we go all the way back to Legendary Treasures, which is in black and white era, we had the first two big gold cards in Reshiram and Zekrom. And now look, it's continued through. We saw some gold cards from XY era. We saw some gold cards from Sun and Moon era. We saw some gold cards from Sword and Shield era, and probably the most notable one from Sword and Shield era would be that gold Snorlax from Chilling Reign. It's quite an expensive gold card. Now, gold cards have never really received a great deal of love, have they? And that begs the question, you know, will gold cards, particularly these two from Mega Evolution, the Gardevoir and the Lucario, will they be expensive in the future? And then I ask myself, well, what makes a Pokemon card expensive? And I think there's a few things that come into play. The first one being, how rare is it? And in the case of a main set like Mega Evolution, we can really ask, what is the pull rate on it? You know, is it 1 in 100 packs or is it 1 in 2,000 packs? And we do know the pull rates on these cards are pretty damn hard. Now, the second one that comes into play is, what Pokemon is it? You know, what Pokemon is in the card, and is that going to make it expensive? Well, yes, it does. It has a massive impact. For example, a gold Weedle, I'm sorry, isn't going to be expensive as a gold Snorlax, a gold Gengar, a gold Charizard, a gold Mew or Mewtwo, a gold Umbreon, for argument's sake. That is just not going to be as expensive. The other thing that comes into play is, what is the artwork like? That's really important. And then I guess the fourth thing that comes into play when it adds its value is, what is the grading play like? Those four things, in my opinion, make a Pokemon card expensive. So if we rehash them, what are the pull rates? So how rare is the card? What Pokemon is in it? How good is the artwork? And what's the grading play? Like, if it turns into a PSA 10, how expensive is it? What is the multiplier effect? And look, some of these things are pretty hard to answer at the moment with these gold cards from Mega Evolution, but they've certainly shot up. And it's not the only time gold cards have been expensive. Like the Reshiram and Zekrom, if I bring them up on the screen here from Legendary Treasures, they're not cheap Pokemon cards. They've shot up recently, and maybe there's a bit of a correlation there between the new gold cards coming out as the new Mega Chasers in Mega Evolution. Maybe that's why their raw prices shot up, but they're also very, very expensive PSA 10s. They're over $6,000 in a PSA 10, albeit they have extremely low populations. One is sitting in the 30s and one is sitting in the 40s. Now, Snorlax from Chilling Reign is also not a cheap Pokemon card. It's the third most expensive chase card from Chilling Reign. It's quite easy to grade a PSA 10. I think there's over 5,000 copies, and it's up around the 60-70% PSA gem rate for a 10 for that Snorlax. And as a result, it's not overly expensive. I think it's a bit over $200 as a PSA 10. But there's not much love given for gold cards along the years. You know, Sun and Moon sort of copped it, and Sword and Shield sort of copped it. Like, there was plenty of gold cards released, but none of them really got much love. But it feels like this Mega Gardevoir and this Mega Lucario are getting a lot of love. And look, fan sentiment will also drive that. So what is my answer on it? Look, I think they're going to actually perform okay. And if we talk about those criteria, the artwork on it is very skeptical, in my opinion. That's the difficult one. This is where I said there's a few pieces of the puzzle we're missing. But we talk about pull rates. They're actually really hard cards to pull. They are actually a proper tiered chase. They are hard to pull. They have very difficult pull rates. That helps. That's going to help their value long term. The second one, when we talk about what Pokemon are in there, well, they are pretty fan favorite Pokemon, aren't they? Gardevoir and Lucario are very fan favorite Pokemon. So you got tick, tick when it comes there. Tough pull rates and fan favorite Pokemon. Now the artwork, this is the skeptical one that I was talking about before. Like, you know, in my opinion, they're not as good at artworks as the SIRs that you get in this set. You know, the one where Lucario's fighting Venusaur or the Gardevoir with the beautiful artwork there. Like, it's just not as good. It doesn't compare in my opinion. However, they're more expensive cards. And the fourth one's the grading play. That's a little bit of an unknown as well. You know, we need some more numbers to come through. We need to see how hard these cards are to gem mint a 10. You know, if we're talking like a 20% conversion rate to gem mint to 10 because, you know, they come out a bit factory damaged, well, that's going to help their value long term in my opinion. Once we get those final two pieces of the puzzle, the fan sentiment towards artwork and also how they gem mint to 10, that's probably when we can make a more accurate decision on whether these are going to be good investments in the long run. I mean, we can always go off the typical play. Typically when a set first comes out, the chase cards are up here, and over time they dip, 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 dip until they find a little bit of an equilibrium. This is exactly what happened, mind you, in Black Bolt and White Flare, the final sets from Scarlet and Violet era, with of course that black Zekrom and the white Reshiram. They started up here at like 900 to $1,000 raw. They came down to 800. They held that for a little while, and now I think they're sitting around $450 as a chase card, and they sort of have found their little sweet spot there. Will they dip some more? If the set gets printed more, they probably will. Look, that's generally what happens as a general rule of thumb. So people saying, you know, are they good cards to pick up right now to invest in? My opinion would be no. I think they're going to drop in price, but eventually they will find their state. And then it depends on print runs. If this set gets heavily printed and we start to see heaps of supply in the market, then they're going to find a new base price. It could drop them some more. Over time, I don't know how I see them. There seems to be heaps of hype around it, like that new Charizard from Phantasmal Flames. There's heaps of hype around that in the Japanese version. It's going for huge dollars as a PSA 10. There's people paying lots and lots and lots of money for it, considering it's a very low pop and there's going to be heaps more sent and graded. And these people that are paying $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 for that card are going to get a rude awakening when there's more on the market and a bigger population that drops in price. So I guess we're answering our own question a little bit here. At the moment, they're not a good investment. Like, I wouldn't pay $600 or $800 for a gold Lucario or gold Gardevoir. And if you paid that 2 weeks ago, you would have paid it probably even more than that. And you can see already they've dropped in price a little bit. Wait until they hit their floor. Wait until we see how they grade, and then you can make your decision on whether you think they're good investments. You already know my opinion when it comes to singles anyway. My opinion is singles are very volatile, and I'd rather invest in the sealed product. I would rather buy a Mega Evolution booster box or a Mega Evolution booster box case. It's a fantastic base set, arguably one of the best we've seen in a very long time. That's the clear winner when it comes to an investment for me. Now, just before we jump into the second point that I wanted to talk about, the second question that I've been asked a lot, which is Paldea Evolved, I wanted to give a quick shout out to today's video sponsor, which is of course the Collector app. If you don't have it, there'll be a link in the description to download it. It's so good now. Like, this app has just gone from strength to strength. If you want to sign up to be a pro member, that would be awesome. There's cool giveaways on that app. You can win yourself heaps of good prizes on there. It unlocks all the data you could possibly want. You can change the skin up on there, so it's your one-stop shop for entering cards in. The big one now, a couple new things. When you jump into your portfolio, there's different filters now, so rather than just filtering from the most expensive product you have to the least expensive product, you can filter and see what your best performing products for the day is. And down in the bottom right, in the bottom right tab, when you can look at your total portfolio, what you've spent and what its value is, rather than just having paper gains, when you actually sell something now on the Collector app, you can link in and say exactly what you sold it for, so you can start seeing realized gains on the app. So awesome app, link in the description to download it. Now, Paldea Evolved, what an awesome set. Is it the best set from Scarlet and Violet era? No. Like, I think Destined Rivals is going to take that crown. Is it the second best set when it comes to a booster box from Scarlet and Violet era? Maybe, maybe not. Maybe Surging Sparks is the second best set from this era. But when people ask me, how's it going to perform? Here's my thoughts on it. And this might be a little bit of an odd take, but I refer it as Lost Origin's slightly smaller brother. Like, it's so close to being as good as Lost Origin, but it's just not quite. And if you look at the current booster box prices, Paldea Evolved is $460. If you look at Lost Origin, it's $808. And there actually isn't a great deal of time between Paldea Evolved and when Lost Origin came out. Touch over 12 months, of course, but that's not a lot of time. So to ask yourself, how will Paldea Evolved booster boxes perform at current prices of $460 and Lost Origin being $808? I would think, in my opinion, that Paldea Evolved in the next 18 months will jump up to Lost Origin's price of $808. I think it's so close to being it's so close to being as good as Lost Origin, but it's just not quite. And here's what I mean by that. If we look at the two sets side by side, so let's start off with Paldea Evolved. So we have the big chase inside there, and here's the similarities, right? Of course, the big chase from Paldea Evolved is that Magikarp. It's one of Shinji Kanda's best artworks. And Shinji Kanda also did the main chase card for Lost Origin in the Giratina, which we'll get to in a second. But that carp goes for $384 raw. In a PSA 10, it goes for $2,260. It is hard to gem into 10. It's very expensive as a PSA 10. And if we scroll through the rest of the set, we have a lot of depth in Paldea Evolved. We have cards like the Tyranitar, we have cards like the Sleeping Raichu, we have cards like the Iono, and there's a lot of depth and value in cards above $10. And that's where the similarity, in my opinion, comes into play with Lost Origin. If we look at Lost Origin, the main chase card, of course, being the Giratina, that is a much more expensive raw chase card than the Magikarp. It's $628. Raw compared to $384 in the Magikarp. But PSA 10 prices are very similar. In fact, the Magikarp is a little bit more expensive, and people love to gamble. People love to open packs to gamble. People love to send cards to PSA to get that double gamble. Open packs, try and pull one, and send it to PSA to try and receive a 10. And that's why the Magikarp is so expensive. But the Giratina is $2,100 in a PSA 10. We've of course got the second main chase card in the Aerodactyl, and then we've got that awesome trainer gallery, which features a couple of Pikachus, Charizard, Gold Mew, Gengar. Like it's a very, very good trainer gallery. And now people might go, well, settle down, Michael. Like Lost Origin is a way better set than Paldea Evolved. But if you actually look at the total set values side by side, Lost Origin is sitting at $1,492 total set value. That's a combination of the main set and the trainer gallery. Paldea Evolved is sitting at $1,417 total set value. So there's literally under $80 splitting these two sets. It's $75 difference, which, mind you, is one pretty solid chase card. You know, it's like having another Tyranitar in Paldea Evolved, because that's about a $75 chase card. So there's nothing to be sneezed at. $75 is nothing to be sneezed at. What it shows is how close these sets are in total set value. Now, the predominant amount of that total set value, of course, comes from the top 10 chase cards. They're the cards that people are chasing. And you may ask yourself, well, what's more desirable, the Giratina or the Magikarp? That's a hard one, isn't it? That carp has a real cult following now, but as does that Giratina. That Giratina was really setting the tone for Shinji Kanda's artwork style and him putting his thumbprint onto the Pokemon TCG. So, look, I'm not saying Paldea Evolved is as good as Lost Origin. I still think Lost Origin's a better Pokemon card set. But it's closer than you think. It's not too far off. So to compare the booster box prices, $460 for Paldea Evolved and $808 for Lost Origin, and this, little over 12-month period between when the sets were released, not too dissimilar in my opinion. So in the next 12 to 18 months, we could see Paldea Evolved starting to claw at Lost Origin's booster box price of $800 US. Look, it's at $460. Before we know it's going to be at $500. I guess the final thing is Paldea Evolved goes out of rotation in April, May next year. And look, there is, of course, a chance that it could be reprinted before then. It might get a small reprint. It might get a big reprint. It might get no reprint at all. In fact, my money would be on that it gets no reprint at all. And if it doesn't get a reprint at all, which it shouldn't, it's already had one, we should see these prices starting to climb for the booster box. That's the only caveat I would say with Paldea Evolved. Is it a good investment at $460, I guess is the final question? Well, yes, I do think it's still a good investment at $460 US. I think we can see this box in 18 months' time getting close and knocking on the door of the $800 price that Lost Origin's currently at. Well, there's the two questions I've been predominantly asked over the last 2 weeks. Hopefully they shed some light onto your queries there. I'm Michael, this is PokeOz. Catch everyone next time.